My son dropped his ice cream that we just stood in line for hours to get. Immediately, he started crying. Previously, before this point, my son would normally cry over every little thing that happened to him, and I saw this as a perfect opportunity to explain to him the purpose and reason why we cry, coming from a man's perspective. First, I told him the purpose of crying. In short and simple form, it is the physical release of emotions built up. For biological purposes, crying is actually a salty fluid chock full of protein, water, mucus, and oil that is released from the lacrimal gland in the upper outer region of your eye, triggered by your brain. Many believe that crying could be a beneficial thing, a safety mechanism of sorts because it rids the body of stress-related toxins. In Japan, they embrace this theory. They have people get together just to cry called crying clubs. It's important to remember that crying is a critical part of the human emotional makeup, just as laughing is. He is 8 years old, so I had to explain this topic in a way he could understand. So I started with the situation he was crying about. I first asked a question. Why are you crying? He responded because he dropped his ice cream. I then asked, what is the purpose of crying? He paused for a minute. Then he remembered my advice and stated, it is to release emotions. I then stated, that's correct. I see you are emotional over dropping your ice cream, but learning to control your emotions is one of the most important things you will have to learn to do as a man. Most men hold their emotions due to fear of judgment of being labeled weak. Men are told at young ages like my son to not cry and be tough. As kids, we are like sponges and soak up information and influences. So they grow up holding their emotions and believing emotions are for women and not showing them are manly. But the truth is they haven't learned how to control it, nor do they understand the process and purpose of why they are emotion at that time. As a young man, I want him to learn that crying over dropped ice cream or anytime he gets upset is not rational. I've explained there are reasons to cry, but if you choose to cry over everything that happens to you, then you will be crying over everything you cannot control. My most repeated advice to all my kids is never worry or stress over things you can't control. This may not be the ideal parenting advice for all, but for me, I believe handling anything that happens to you in life in a logical, rational way is the way a man should handle it. I then asked him what can he do to address the problem of dropping your ice cream. He paused for a minute, then gave me a confused look. I answered that he could have asked to buy another one. He can pick it up off the ground and eat the part that did not get dirty, or he could throw it away and let it go. Walking away from an issue to cool off or find a solution is okay as a man. I also added that crying about it is not one of the solutions. It is only a temporary expression of emotions and drainage of energy. As a man, I have learned to never judge people for their emotions. When people cry, there is always a reason even if they can't control them. Men crying. I believe there are 4 acceptable reasons why a man should not be judged if they cry. When there is a death in a family, extreme overwhelming happiness, physical pain, and showing empathy or sympathy towards another human being. I know he's 8 and probably won't remember details of this conversation, but as a father, I will try to be consistent in my teaching, so he will retain my words and turn them into wisdom. What do you guys think of my advice? What would you add or remove? Please like, share, and subscribe for more debatable content like this. Change life focus.